use plan that is within the comprehensive plan and the town's zoning ordinance. Before I open the public hearing, we have a piece of correspondence to be received. This is an email correspondence of Richard and Kathy Freeman, 395 Paradise Avenue, dated February 18th, 2019, regarding proposed change to Middletown land use plan. May I have a motion to receive this correspondence?
Motion to receive correspondence.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. The correspondence is received. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion to open public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Public hearing is open. I turn it over to you.
Sure. So this is the third group of three that we'll be bringing forward to you for consideration. These are map amendments that are being proposed, changes to the comprehensive plan's future land use map in order to ensure consistency between the future land use plan and the town's zoning map. So there are, as you know, several areas in town that are affected by the changes that are being discussed tonight. Some of the changes are necessary because proposed zoning amendments were not adopted by the town council. For example, the first map on Paradise Avenue, the planning board had originally recommended that the areas of discussion be rezoned to be consistent with the low density designation. However, the town council chose not to do that. So there's that situation. There's other situations that we'll go through tonight where the planning board decided that it would be more appropriate to amend the future land use plan rather than the zoning map to achieve that consistency. And just as a reminder, under state law, we're required to have our maps consistent. The future land use plan and the zoning map need to be consistent. And there's two ways of doing that. Either you amend the zoning map or you amend the future land use plan. So everything on the agenda for tonight, all of the maps we'll be talking about tonight are only changes to the future land use plan and the comprehensive plan. There are no zoning changes proposed tonight. Depending on how the board decides to proceed on these map changes tonight, once those decisions are made, we will group all of the proposed changes from tonight and the prior two groups that you've already acted upon. Those will be sent to the town council for consideration. The town council must also hold a public hearing on those proposed map changes, so that will be another opportunity for the public to weigh in on any of the proposed changes. So with that, I think we'll just probably jump right in. I'll ask Rita to just quickly review each of the maps for you, and I would suggest that perhaps on each page, once we're done with that brief explanation and any questions of the board, you might open it up to the public to see if there are any questions on that particular map, and then we'll move on to the next map and just proceed that way through the entire group of maps.
Sounds good.
So I think we'll ask Rita then to start with map number 1.
On the first map we have here, it's the Paradise Avenue area. The map shows on the left-hand side the current zoning. It is currently zoned R30, which is a medium density residential, and the proposed future land use change would be changing from low density residential to medium density residential so that the zoning and the future land use plan would match. There are two maps in this group, so this is map 1 of 2, and I will flip to the second one now and then pause. So this is also...
Let's deal with the first one
one. Okay.
first.
So I'll just point out on that one too that the existing zoning, which is R30, that will remain the same. So there is I guess a matching of the zoning districts with the designations in the comprehensive plan. So the medium density comprehensive plan designation would apply to the R30 and R20 zoning districts. This particular area of town, these affected lots happen to be zoned R30, which would be consistent with the proposed
With the medium
density. Right.
Okay, is there any comments from the planning board members?
Well, I guess my question is, what was the council's primary purpose in sending this back to us? Did they specify in writing or in any other communication?
I don't recall what the specific issues were.
Okay.
So I'm looking at this correspondence where there's concern about increasing the density. This change does not affect that in any way, is that correct?
It doesn't affect the zoning, so the zoning is going to remain unchanged, R30. I guess you could, by changing the comprehensive plan designation from low-density residential to medium-density residential, you would be allowing someone, a property owner, to come into the town to request a zone change to R20, for example, and that zone
That would have
change.
to go through the zone change.
It would go through it would go through the typical process.
Okay.
But, I mean, in terms of any immediate impact, there really would be none because the zoning isn't going to change.
Is any member of the public who would like to speak, please?
Teresa Spangler, 1111 Wapping Road. I'm sorry, just if you don't mind helping us in the audience for some clarification. So low density is R30 and medium density is,
No. Low density is R40 and R60, medium density is R20 and R30, and then high density is multifamily and R10.
okay, so currently, right now, in the comprehensive plan, the new proposed plan is what would match that? Or this, or that would, that's a question, sorry.
So the change to the comprehensive plan map, the current comprehensive plan map has the affected properties identified as low-density residential.
Which would be R40 or R60?
Right. The zoning is R30. The town council elected not to change the zoning to either R40 or R60, which means we now have to go back and change the comprehensive plan map to that medium-density residential designation to match the current zoning of R30.
Okay, so the comp plan currently says low density.
Right.
So so this proposed change is going to change the comp plan?
Yes. That's all all the maps tonight, all we're talking about is comp plan changes, no zoning changes.
So when so if this change, so the town council denied that, and if the planning board denies the new proposed plan, what happens next?
There's got to be consistency. That's all I can say, is the state law requires consistency between the two maps. So one of the maps has to change. Since the town council said the zoning map's not going to change, then the comp plan map has to change.
Okay, so by doing this proposed plan, if that passes, I understand that you may have to, that means that's going to increase residential houses. So that's going to potentially, if people wanted to build, they could build on smaller lots.
Just on those lots there that we're talking about on this map.
Well, no.
No. This is not
There's no
changing
change to the zoning. The R30 zoning is
zoning,
going to
right.
remain in
But-
place. So there's no increase in density. What I was suggesting that by changing the designation from low density to medium density, someone might come in and say, I want to rezone my land to R20 because it would be consistent with that medium density designation, but they'd have to go through a whole process to request that zone change. So there's no immediate impact in terms of density and allowing additional development as a result of what we're talking about tonight, because the zoning, the R30 zoning, isn't going to change.
So my
Okay, I'm
point was
confused then.
we're talking about just this particular section for the comp plan change. Just this map. It's not all over town.
No, I understand that, each map tonight, I'm just trying to understand as we go along, so I don't have to ask the same question all the time,
Yeah.
but if you're saying there's no change, then why does the map have to change?
Because the two maps are inconsistent right now. The zoning map is R30, the current comp plan map is low-density residential. Those don't go together. So to
State
make
law.
to recognize the R30, the current zoning,
Okay,
it's got to be changed to medium-density
okay.
residential.
So potentially, though, in the future, those owners could come in and change their, and tweak their lots. But
They
I know
they
have to
could
go through-
request a zone change,
Right, okay.
which, again, that goes through the planning board and to town council. It's not,
Okay.
it's not an easy thing.
Right, okay. Okay, thank you. I just am trying to understand as we go along, because this is different, this is new. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
sure.
I think the overwhelming idea is that we have to make the maps consistent. They've got to be, that's the idea of this exercise.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public who would like to speak? We're talking about this.
Anton Faveros, 110 Indian Hill Road. I think one of the big concerns was that the comprehensive plan and zoning, in many cases, were not compatible, and that created a problem. So in order to try and solve the problem, it seems that you should look at the comprehensive plan and the zoning, and where they do not match, ask the question, which is best for the town and the people in the town? What the comp plan says or what the zoning says? If you decide that it's the comp plan that's better for the town, then you would change the zoning to match the comp plan. If you decide that the zoning was better representing the town and what the people want and to protect their quality of life, then you change the comprehensive plan. When the two of them are in sync, it solves a lot of problems. Somebody comes before the planning board. If they don't get what they want, they go before the zoning board and try to get them to overturn what the planning board said. But if the two are in sync, that problem goes away. Now, to me, what you're doing is adjusting the comp plan.
We have gone through the exercise that you described. We have looked at which is better for the town, to change the zoning or to change the comp plan. We decided that for these cases, it was better to change the comp plan. That's why these are being proposed this way.
When you're done, will the comp plan match the zoning?
They will be consistent. That's the whole purpose
They
of
will,
this exercise.
okay, so when this is done, the comp plan and the zoning will be consistent.
Will be
So the
consistent.
comp plan will say the same thing that the zoning says.
That's the
What you can do, when a comp plan says a developer can do here, the zoning will agree.
That's the whole purpose of this exercise.
I know what the purpose is, but that's...
That's what we are doing.
Okay, so when you're done, they'll be in sync.
Yes.
Consistent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
by the way, that's not just a little something we do, it's mandated by state law, number one, and it really has nothing to do with the people want. It's a legal thing that has to be done. When the comp plan is written and there's a discrepancy between the two, it's got to be rectified. And there's really two ways to do it, and this is one way we're going to do it. And you're absolutely correct. When we're done here tonight, the comp plan and the zoning are going to be like twins, okay?
Okay, well, that's been my argument
Yeah.
for a number of years, that they didn't, it was a mandate by the state, and the state actually changed and made the comp plan preferable, or changed the comp plan from being preferable to the zoning, because the zoning is bond the state law. And if they didn't do that, because I was a little concerned myself, but if they hadn't done that, the state could have wound up in court. But the comp plan, according to the state statute, and the zoning are comparable, they're equal.
Well, let me explain something to you to make the picture clear, if I can, just a minute. I did the first comp plan here on the planning board in the early 2000s, and the comp plan was written, and it was approved by the town council and approved by the state. Not one effort for one piece of zoning was ever changed to make the zoning compatible with the comp plan. And what happened then, when you had a discrepancy or a controversy over zoning and comp plan, it always defaulted to the comp plan. So the state said, wait a minute, we've got to have a level playing field both for zoning and the comp plan. So that's where we are today, and that's why it's done this way.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
we can agree to disagree, but I think that the main thing, chapter 45, -24, and in many years, that's the way it was, until I thought it was because of certain things behind closed doors, but it turns out that they did that to protect the state because the zoning is bound by law, by state law, and the comp plan wasn't. But that's why they say, if something comes before the or permit is requested, and the development meets all the zoning requirements, you don't need a variance. So you go by the zoning. But the minute you need a variance, the state statute says the comp plan prevails. So it doesn't go back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir, ma'am. I'm Kevin Quinn. I'm at 73 Wintergreen Drive. I abut the Maha property. There's a line of arborvitae that separates our property from Maha Center. And so we're very much a concern because if I can step away from the mic a second.
Can you take the mic with you, please?
That's not this map.
That's a possibility. Thank you.
That's a different map. That's not the map we're on right now.
Yeah,
We're not there
I
yet.
think you're ahead of yourself.
We're coming to that next.
Looks like it.
We're going through.
Okay.
We're
This
going
is
through
Paradise
each.
Avenue.
All right. So,
Hold your comments till we get to your map.
oh, okay.
Your
Roger.
map will be coming up.
I'll stand by. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else from the public who wishes to comment on the Paradise Avenue map? Okay, let's hold this one and move on to the next map.
Do you,
We're going to vote on all of them at the end.
at the end?
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
See if that works.
We'll give it a whirl.
Give it a whirl.
This is map 2 of 2 for the changing from medium-density residential to low-density residential for the comp plan. Again, no zoning changes are being recommended here. The zoning is, from low to medium. The current zoning, you can read this sort of comparing the top half to the bottom half. The top left corner shows that there's medium-density residential in the current zoning. The directly below that shows that the proposed future land use plan would change from low-density residential to medium-density residential to meet the current zoning. And that is the area around Meadow Lane. You might also notice we'll come back to that little blue lot later on.
Yeah.
It's not included in this grouping, but it is in one of the later maps. You can see that the colors don't match on that either. And then on the right-hand side, map 2-B, this is the
Well,
area.
on this first map, this is similar to the previous one.
Yes,
Currently zoned R30, and we want to change it from low density to medium density to be consistent with that zoning.
correct,
Yeah,
yep.
Okay.
And then map 2-B, this is the area around the intersection of East Main and Road. Again, it is currently zoned R30, which would be a medium density residential designation. But in the future land use map, it is currently low density residential, so the proposal is to change it to medium density residential so that it matches current zoning.
Isn't that area a nursery?
This area is residential, just in from the intersection a little
East
bit.
Main?
It's near the cemetery, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
cemetery is to the right, isn't it?
Yes. And so across the
So-
street is the nursery.
Nursery, that's right.
yeah.
But
It's cut up like that, all those lots? Really? That's odd.
again, this is the same change,
Yes,
from low density to medium density to be consistent with the R30 zoning.
correct.
Yeah, there are some deep residential lots there now that I think of it. Off Wyatt.
There's the Johnson Terrace, there's that little road that you can sort of see in the map, so there's residential houses in there.
Yeah. Any other comments from planning board members? Anyone from the public wish to comment on either of these maps? Okay, let's move on to the next.
The next few sheets that you have are just details for the first two maps that you saw. So we're moving on to the change from high-density residential to medium-density residential. So there are three maps here. They are numbered 1, 2, and 3 across the top. Again, you read this comparing the top half to the bottom half. Map number 1 is the area around Browns Lane. There is a few lots that are currently R20, which would be designated medium-density residential. However, in the future land use plan, they are currently listed as high-density residential, so the proposal is to change the future land use plan to medium to match the R20 zoning designation. The central, do you have a question on that one? No.
Any questions on this map?
The map in the center, number 2, is the area around Goldenrod and Wintergreen. Those are either designated R20 or R20A, which is the traffic-sensitive zone of R20. And then the future land use plan, again, has them zoned as high-density residential, and the proposal here is to change them to medium-density residential to match the R20 designation of zoning. And then finally, on the far-hand right side, there is just one lot. This is off of Tuckerman Ave. There is one lot that is listed as R30. And again, the proposal is to change from the high-density residential designation in the future land use plan to medium to match the R30 designation.
Any comments from the planning board members on any of these maps? Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on these?
Good evening again. I'm Kevin Quinn.
Welcome back.
And sorry, I spoke out of turn earlier.
It's on.
This area right here is sandwiched between the Maha Center and the neighborhood that starts from Chinese Star Preschool and goes up the hill from Valley Road. So I'm at 73, which is this lot right here. And my major concerns with the change, I guess I'm not sure where the from and to was. I thought this was the from and this is the to, but that doesn't match.
So
what
the,
I just spoke. So maybe
yeah.
I misunderstood what this.
So the top map just shows what the current zoning is right now, so that will not change.
Current zoning is for the Maha Center.
Yes, so the Maha Center is not included in any of the changes. Only the areas that are outlined in that green are the highlighted areas. So the ones that actually, on the bottom map, the ones that actually have the lot numbers on them are the ones that are subject to the potential change.
What is the change in color between this map and this map for the Maha?
That's just whatever underlying designation there were, but that's not part of the proposed changes tonight.
That's
The zoning map and the comprehensive plan have different legend colors, but they're defined on the left there.
Yeah, there's no correlation between the colors on the top and the bottom other than the legend. That makes it a little more complicated, understood.
Anything you see in red is limited business,
Okay.
okay?
So I guess my understanding was that we'd be looking at potential, if this does go to high density as the proposed future land use plan, what would that mean for that land? What are the potential aspects of that type of zone?
So again, the Maha Center land isn't changing? That the designation isn't changing on that property?
It's only the
only the-
areas outlined in green.
Only the residential lots in your subdivision, in your neighborhood, those are changing from high-density residential to medium-density residential, and the zoning isn't changing. The current zoning, which is R20, that's going to remain unchanged. It would just be changing the comp plan future land use map from high-density to medium-density residential.
Okay, so maybe this is a complete outside of the concern for this evening. But what would it take to change the comprehensive proposed future land use to keep this as,
So it's owned limited business right now. It's owned,
so this remains red?
yep, so that's zoned zoned limited business. And it's going to remain zoned limited business unless someone requests a change.
Okay, but I thought the end of tonight was, eventually was to have the comp plan match current zoning.
That area does match. Don't look at the colors.
Oh,
Yeah, the colors that do not correlate, I know it's confusing.
okay. So this high-density residential is not correlated with this,
So
is that true?
this exercise is only focused on the areas that are highlighted in green before, so just those residential lots. So not the entire town is being looked at during this particular public hearing. The planning board has already sort of looked through these and decided that they only want to tackle some of the lots at this time for changing the future land use plan. So if there are other mismatches that are shown, they could be highlighted for potentially some other time to look at, but today, the under consideration is only the highlighted in green.
Okay, is there some way we can kind of push that forward on the docket? Because this kind of alarms me to think that we could have.
Somebody has to request it.
Sorry?
Somebody has to request it. It hasn't been requested.
Okay.
The current zoning is not proposed to be changed, so it is currently zoned general business, and there's no proposal to change that. Limited business,
yeah.
excuse me.
Oof.
Wrong red.
Yeah.
Right, so I guess at this point, then we just need to wait until that zoning comes up or to propose the comprehensive plan for the second year.
Right now, the plan and the zoning are consistent. It will not be coming up under this exercise unless somebody requests a zoning change.
I guess I'm not understanding how the planning and the current zoning are consistent.
Well, what happens is, we're coming to reality. We don't have high density there. We have an existing wonderful subdivision with R20 lots. So that's what we're doing, is we're bringing that zoning map into consistency with what's really there. That's the point of the exercise. Whatever happens in a limited business, that's beyond the scope of this particular discussion. Are we confusing you, or?
No, I think I understand.
Okay.
There's a corollary discussion for the other.
If that, anything comes, that's a separate, that's really beyond the scope of what we're doing tonight, as we adjust the zoning maps.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on these maps? Okay, move on.
The next map is showing change from limited and office business to medium-density residential. Again, comparing the top half of the screen to the bottom half of the screen, the current zoning for the top left corner is just this one lot is designated R20, which would be a medium-density residential designation in the future land use plan. But it is currently listed in the future land use plan as limited and office business, so the proposal is to change it to medium-density residential so that it matches current zoning. This is one lot located off of Honeyman Ave.
You'll recall this is the property at the rear of the self-storage facility, which got a lot of attention back.
Can you go through this again? To
You want the whole
Make
history?
sure it's clear
No.
what's happening here.
So what's happening here is that
Clip Notes version.
you'll recall that there was a concern raised by some of the abutting property owners that this particular lot should remain residential. So that's really what the proposal is doing. It's changing the comprehensive plan designation. The zoning was proposed to be commercial at one point.
Mhm.
It's now zoned R20, so
Yep.
there is that inconsistency. And by changing the designation to medium-density residential, that would be consistent with the current zoning and the current use, because there is a residential unit on that property.
Single,
Who owns that property?
I believe, trying to remember now, it might be,
It's not Middletown Self-Storage.
Not any longer.
they sold it.
I'm not sure. It was owned by Mr. Reed at one point, but
was.
I don't know if he still owns it.
But even if he owns it, the change will be to consistency with residential.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and the same goes for that map number 2. There's existing residential uses on both of those lots. I think in that case, it was probably a mapping error from some point in the past that ended up having those lots being designated as limited in office business, because they've always been used for residential purposes. So that would bring the map into consistency with the current zoning and the current use.
Okay. Comments from planning board members?
Oh, that's East Meadow Wyatt, right? That's the one.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on these two maps? Moving on.
Okay, we're moving on to the next map, which reflects a proposed change from protected agricultural lands and open space to medium-density residential. This is one lot off of Barton Lane. It is currently zoned medium-density residential, and in the future land use plan had a designation of protected and agricultural land.
And it was only that one lot on the...
It's just that one lot. Most likely it was connected to, you can see the rest of the green next to it at some point.
Yeah.
It's just that one little outlier.
We blame it on technology.
Comments from the planning board? Anyone from the public like to comment on this map? Next one.
Okay. And this is our final map. You saw this earlier. I noted on the very first map that there was that one little spot of blue. We were looking at the other lots on Meadow Lane. This one particular spot is, I believe it's a pump house right now, currently zoned public, but in the future land use plan, it had it designated as low-density residential, so the proposal is to change it to institutional so that it matches the current zoning of public.
And what is there now?
It's a sewer pump station.
Pump station.
Pump station.
Pump
for the
station.
Sewer
development.
pump station, it's owned by the town. Or by the, actually, I shouldn't say that. It's either owned by the town or by the homeowners association, I'm not sure which, but it's a sewer pump station.
And I see we don't have a code for the bright blue, but that's the rural village district we're talking about. But there's no little
It's coming.
deep blue code on the left.
Looking for a nice color art
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there in the bottom left
Look at
corner.
on the legend on the bottom left, dark blue, rural village.
Okay,
Oh,
got
yeah.
it.
It's there.
Anyone from the public like to speak on this map? Okay, that's the last one.
That's all of them.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept the proposed changes?
So moved.
Well,
Motion is made and seconded.
You should close the public
We're going
hearing.
to close the public hearing.
Public meeting, oh,
Close the public hearing first.
Motion.
close the
May I
hearing.
have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. Now may I have a motion to accept the proposed changes as presented herein?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to accept the proposed changes as delineated in the memo dated December 5th? Is that the most recent date you have on the memo?
I would just refer to the maps.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Is there anything anyone else would like to bring up at this meeting? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is adjourned. Meeting is adjourned.
Good job. Going your first time back. Nailed it.